Hey everyone, in this video we're going to address something that is probably very controversial, but we feel like it needs to be said because it's kind of something that we think a lot of people have noticed like existing out in the world, but the current political environment hasn't exactly fostered feelings of safety for calling it out.
Or
Okay?
even discussing it openly. Like, it's not just calling it out. Like, people are so freaking scared to even talk right now about anything they have questions about. And when we stifle this kind of talk, it just makes people act out of anger.
Yeah, I agree. And so that thing that we want to talk about is called toxic femininity. And it's something that's incredibly apparent among many modern day feminists. Okay. Now, to understand what this is, let's take a step back and first just briefly mention a term that even more people are probably familiar with: toxic masculinity. This is something that modern day feminists are just calling out all the time, like, toxic masculinity, mansplaining, etc., etc.
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy, and in particular, Western white male cisgendered men are like, as soon as they even disagree with a woman, they're misogynistic. They're just
their argument is not valid at all. The fact that they are a man makes them completely
wrong. Like, they can't have an opinion, right? So it's a pejorative that's thrown around, used to dismiss men. It's this idea of toxic masculinity, right? And so first and foremost, it's being used incorrectly because it gets thrown around too much. It's kind of like she's climbing on my monitors. It gets thrown around inappropriately, kind of like crying wolf, right? So it's really lost all meaning because it gets used so frequently in inappropriate ways to dismiss men and their opinions.
Almost, I'm gonna say this, and I probably shouldn't, but almost like the racism word. Like, you say anything right now and you're a racist.
Yeah, like, it's similar with sexism, right?
It's using words to the point that they lose their value, and it almost becomes a joke in society. And that's what people are doing to that word too right now, racism. Like, it's in another year, it's going to lose all value and people are just going to laugh at it, which is not what we want.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's a very serious matter, and feminism, misogyny, like, it's devalued.
Like, it's actually been taken in under misandry, which is misogyny, except it's hate for men, misandry, right? And so people now have this huge hate for men, and they throw around toxic masculinity as their way of dismissing them. The reason we mention that is because toxic masculinity actually exists. Like, it is a thing. And that's why this is upsetting. There are men out there, and you can just picture them. They are the stereotypical male that believes women are lesser beings, treats them like...
Just had a conversation yesterday on Twitter with one that called me a dumb idiot because I was a woman, and he said that too.
He said they can't use logic, they can only use emotional reasoning, that treats them like property rather than actual people.
Yeah, I come across men like that all the time. Yeah. Like, it's obvious right away.
And why is it obvious?
Because they're very overt with the way they treat women. Exactly. They treat them like trash.
They're misogynistic, and you can see it. It's not hiding anywhere. They are actually toxic people, right? They are openly misogynistic. They openly hate women. They're proud of it. Okay? But there is another type of toxic masculinity that is bred from toxic femininity. So now we're bringing those two concepts together. And this is the issue that we want to raise, is that people talk about toxic masculinity a lot, but no one's talking about toxic femininity. Toxic femininity is basically, everything that we just described. It's women constantly berating men, making men and boys especially feel like having traditionally masculine traits isn't a good thing, that, they need to be more feminine, they need to be more women-like, and that they need to basically go above and beyond in acknowledging other women. In essence,
treat them like queens, and that is your first issue because it's a power play. It's a power play that toxic women do. They want to be treated like a queen because they maintain dominance.
They take it too far. Instead of wanting to just be treated like an equal, they want to be treated as better than equal. And this is something that a lot of modern day feminists promote is that
if you just sit back and look at it, they do not want equality at all.
No.
They want to be top dogs.
Yeah.
And that causes problems in our men.
Yeah. So what happens when a man, especially from boyhood, is exposed to
his mom telling him constantly,
his teachers, something like 80% of teachers are women, who are constantly putting ideas in his head of toxic masculinity. You don't want to be masculine, respect women, like all of
you don't talk like that to women. You don't argue with women.
Yeah. You bow down to women, basically. It breeds two types of people. The first has enough masculinity within them to just be like, fuck that, and they become those outwardly misogynistic ones who have mommy problems when they're adults, right? Because their mom was like the devouring archetype. They were just
devouring mother.
So like helicopter over them, and they're just like, God, I can't stand women, and it's because of that childhood trauma.
Yep. And the other way is they internalize it, and they become the son that is always trying to please the women.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and these are
the insidious.
Yeah. These ones, like if you have the outwardly misogynistic male, you can deal with it because you can see it right there. You can choose to avoid it. You can choose how you interact with it.
Women can avoid those ones very easily. All of you ladies know that when you go on a date and a man is being a douchebag, right away.
You're in control because you can see what is happening in front of you. But these other type of men, the ones who internalize their misogyny, these are the ones who then project that out onto the world. They're the male feminists. They are the ones who kiss the feet of women. They are the ones who will do anything to please women. They are the ones.
Sounds nice, but it really isn't. Like we don't want that.
They are the ones who are always friend zoned and become sexually frustrated because women don't want feminine men. They don't.
Even if they say they do, they don't. That's not how we are evolutionarily designed. We want testosterone in our men.
Yeah.
We want them to lead.
So these sexually frustrated men that have internalized their misogyny have to be manipulative. They're the ones who use date rape drugs. They're the ones who get women really drunk so that they can have sex with them because there would be no chance of it happening if they were sober. These are the ones who have these insidious
They're called like beta males.
Yeah.
Right?
That's in certain communities, they are the beta males or the simps. And it's the result of toxic femininity constantly talking down to men, taking their manliness away.
Yeah, and I think that this starts with the moms and the teachers. Like these are our females. Like if all of our men are these toxic men that need to be regulated, like the feminists say, who's responsible? Because we have a lot of fatherless homes.
Yeah.
And it's the moms raising these boys. What are you teaching your boys?
Yeah, you don't want to demasculinize men because all that does is trigger controlling, obsessive, even homicidal behaviors. It turns them into defenseless infants and predatory.
Yeah, and those are the rapists.
Basically. Yeah, exactly. What we need to do is we need to get rid of toxic femininity. And
because that's the root of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, exactly. What we need to do is we need to stop telling boys especially, but also men, that it's wrong to be men. Stop doing that. What we need to do is teach them that
men and women have
we need to get men to understand that their role in society is as a protector and a provider of everyone, right? And this has
then they wouldn't treat women like trash if they took their role as a responsible protector.
Exactly.
Which is what they are. I mean, that's why we send our men to war and not women.
Yeah. Well, that's why men do all of the hard labor jobs. That's why they're the ones who work in mines. There's a reason. It's not just some outdated, patriarchal society. It's throughout evolutionary history, men were the ones who put their lives on the line to protect and provide for the family unit and for society at large.
And so at this point, what we've done in 2020 is we've given feminists the upper hand, and they've told our men, everything you do for us is trash. Nothing you do is right. So let's shame them into feeling powerless. Do you understand what you're doing as like, you're talking to men or your little boys telling them that they can't like go play in the dirt and be wild? Like that's what boys do.
Yeah.
They have a different genetic makeup than little girls.
They're wired differently, and it's not a bad thing. Like biology between men and women is that way for a reason. And it's not,
we need that
it's not a patriarchal society, because if it was,
not anymore. I think at one time there was more patriarchal.
Oh, of course. Traditional feminists have come a long way towards letting women vote, letting women go to work.
But it went way too far.
Yeah, it went way too far. Now, here's the other thing too, is the apex fallacy. A lot of people look at quote unquote the apex positions in society, like CEOs, and they say, and they use that to show patriarchy and toxic masculinity throughout in all of society. And it's like, no, like when you're talking about the millionaires and billionaires, yeah, it's weighted heavily towards men. And yeah, a lot of them are very outwardly misogynistic and take advantage of women because they are just so hyper focused on work that they can't, in their heads, they can't devote resources towards dealing with women. So they do just use them as, but they do that with everything, not just women. I don't think it's like a misogynistic like trait per se. I think that they use other people that way too. Yeah. They're business people and they view everything as, what can I get from you? Yep. Now, everyone. Yeah. And the point of bringing that up is that you can't look at that example and say that applies to all of society. That's bullshit. It's called the apex fallacy. You cannot look at the top of the food chain and assume it applies to everything beneath it.
Because it doesn't, clearly.
Yeah. So toxic masculinity exists. It's a thing. It's totally present, and it is not okay. It's something that we need to work to make known that it's not good and it will not be rewarded in society. But we can't do that with toxic femininity, because that's just like, that's pouring gasoline on the fire. Like that's like running to get a bucket of water to put out your fire.
You're creating a bunch of manipulative rapists.
Yeah, exactly. You're just making the problem worse. And the problem is way worse because you're not going to be able to see it this time.
No, because you think you friend zone them, and then they rape you when you're drunk or when you're sleeping on the couch or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our controversial little talk here. Again, to sum up, toxic masculinity exists. No one's doubting that. Toxic femininity also exists. A lot of people doubt that. Insidious. We need to talk about it because that's at the root of a lot of the problems in society today. Anyway, that's all we had to say. And if you like the content of this video, then awesome. That's what we're trying to do. Please give the video a like. And if you think other people should hear this message, please give our video a share. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.